In this video, we will show you a live demonstration of the installation of American Power Services explosively welded plugs. Our explosively welded plugs are a cost-effective way to safely and permanently plug leaking feed water heater tubes, improving feed water heater availability. You will see how leaks are identified, marked, and documented by our technicians. We will demonstrate how the technician prepares the tube for explosive plugging and the installation of the plug. You will also see a demonstration of plug removal that compares the difficulty of removing explosive plugs with the removal of some other types of plugs used in feed water heaters today. Please understand that the tube sheet used in this demonstration is not attached to a feed water heater. We utilize the access to the other side of this tube sheet for demonstration purposes only. While this is not the method normally used to remove plugs, it allows us to clearly show the permanent nature of explosively welded plugs. Figures 1 and 2 shown earlier are graphics of a typical explosive weld and the wave formation interface that is formed. We will show you one of the destructive tests that all of our explosive plugs have undergone prior to marketing them. You will see what the bond between tube and plug should look like, as well as one of the consequences of failure to properly prepare the tube being plugged. American Power Services explosive plugs are manufactured from pure nickel, making them compatible with all of your heat transfer equipment. Cost effective because they are permanent. Once installed, they will not come out until you want them out. Explosive welding is a process of permanently joining two metal surfaces using a small amount of explosive by moving one or both of the metal surfaces together at high collision velocity. Now let's see that in slow motion. The progressive impact of the metal surfaces at high velocity creates a welded bond. At the correct collision velocity and collision angle, a wavy bond configuration is formed at the metal surface interface. This metal-to-metal bond is stronger than a fusion weld and in most cases stronger than the base metal used in the welding process. This plug being hammered on from the other side of the tube sheet was properly installed and, as you can see, requires a great deal of force to remove it. Notice that the tube is coming out with the plug. Obviously, feed water heater plugs never see that kind of force from that side of the tube sheet. But the point is, the plug has become one with the tube. Unlike conventionally welded, tapered, or button plugs, which have only a minute cross-section of weld holding them in place, our explosive plugs have more than a half-inch wide band of weld, 360 degrees, as revealed by destructive testing. They are safe because they require intentional detonation. The explosive compounds are initiated by an explosive bridge wire. This component requires a blasting machine capable of delivering 3,000 volts within 1/1000th of a second rise time from a condenser. They will not be accidentally detonated by normal batteries, conventional firing boxes, 220 volts, or radio waves. As such, they do not, by nature of design or intended use, constitute a public safety or security hazard, and do not need to be stored in a special magazine. I don't want to bore you with a lot of unnecessary footage on this point, but I do want to show you one of the tests that our plugs have undergone prior to marketing. Because this test demonstrates that even a sharp chisel does not separate the two metals after proper installation. With the copper tube and nickel plug, it is relatively easy to see the path of the chisel, much like a custom carved multicolored candle. To our surprise, even an improperly installed plug where the tube was not cleaned prior to installation became lodged so tightly in the tube that this method of removal also pushed the tube out with the plug. This is why the tube and plug came out together. However, when subjected to the chisel test, a disc bond was revealed. This close-up photograph shows that the collision velocity and the collision angle did their part. Notice the wavy pattern in both metals? The dirt and grime you see is responsible for the disc bond. Please notice the ease with which these plugs with only a mechanical interface are removed using the same method. Notice also that in no case does the tube come out with the plug. American Power Services has installed more than 100,000 explosively welded plugs without damage to tube sheets, ligaments, or overlays. American Power Services explosive plug design has eliminated shear points inside and out by superior geometry. This makes them more forgiving of irregular tube or tube sheet interiors.